What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the Arizona Coyotes potentially shipping off their goaltender. Now, for the right price, probably it's going to be expensive, but it sounds like Karel Vejmelka is available in Arizona. What teams are willing to pony up the price potentially for Vejmelka? We'll go over that today. We'll make some mock trades. Why I think those teams are a good fit for him, we'll go over that today. So obviously we have to start off with the report because the reports have come out of Arizona from Jeff Merrick. He said the Arizona Coyotes are willing to trade goaltender Karel Vejmelka if they get the right offer. So obviously that brings up kind of an interesting conversation. So for a little bit of context on Vejmelka, he's played 85 games in the National Hockey League over his career. He's played 33 games for the Yotes this year. He's got 11 wins. His stats aren't that impressive. He's got a .336 goals against average and a .902 save percentage, which isn't really that great. But when you look at the big stat that everybody brings up with Vejmelka is his stats in terms of high danger opportunities, in terms of like a shot right in the house, right, or very high scoring opportunities. Vejmelka is the best in the league, even more so than even the goalies you would think, right? Even more so than Vasilevsky, Ilya Sorokin, Igor Shesterkin, and even Linus Ullmark, who is the best goalie in the NHL this season. Vejmelka's stats in terms of high opportunity shots, he does have the best percentage there. So, again, when he's surrounded by the Coyotes defense and just the team overall, the opportunities aren't really there for him to have a really good save percentage. But he is capable of giving you that kind of performance. Now, he's a former 2015 fifth-round pick by the Nashville Predators. Again, guys, listen, not everybody gets drafted in the first round, first overall, and becomes a good player, right? That's kind of the case here for Vejmelka. He's 26 years old, and his contract will be up when he's 28. So it's not this summer, but next year. So basically you get 2 playoff runs out of Vejmelka if he were to get traded before this year's trade deadline, which does give the Coyotes some leverage, and they might be able to get some more assets out of him other than being just a rental. And that brings up the conversation then, well, what teams would be interested in Vejmelka? So I was able to come up with 2 teams in the Eastern Conference because, truthfully, if I'm the Coyotes, there's two reasons why you trade him and where you trade him. So they don't want to trade him in conference because this is a guy that's still fairly young at 26 years old. They don't want him to go to a team that they could potentially be playing in the playoffs in 5 years from now. Now, again, that could always end up happening anyway, depending on where you trade him. It might not matter, but still, you don't want to directly trade him in the conference or in the division, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the Coyotes right now are trying to tank for Bedard. And in the pursuit of tanking, you don't want a good goaltender. And when you have a goaltender that is the best in the league in terms of high opportunity scoring opportunities, he's got a very good save percentage, well, that kind of hurts the cause in terms of tanking for Bedard. And that's what the Yotes are trying to do this season and next season. So Vejmelka's window with the Coyotes, again, it's kind of a wasted opportunity for Vejmelka, and it's also a wasted opportunity for the Coyotes to be maybe lower in the standings. This could end up being a win-win for both sides. So what are the teams that would be in that window for Vejmelka? I was able to come up with 2 teams. Both these teams have been in the mix for goalie options recently. Now, both of these teams are in the Atlantic Division, so I'll preface with that. The first one is the Ottawa Senators. Now, the Senators have been pretty open about the fact their goaltending has not been very good. And, the Senators, I think at this point, are out of the playoff race for 2023. I think there's too much competition ahead of them in terms of the Penguins, the Islanders, and of course teams in their division like Florida and Buffalo. We'll get to them in a second. I think there's too much competition there. I just don't think they will be able to get in. But again, that's where the great thing is, it's a 2-year deal. So even if he establishes himself this season in Ottawa, plays well enough, they say, all right, he's a good fit here, and then they end up signing him long-term this summer, or they even wait till, they have some time next year to figure it out, they can decide to do that. And that's where I think the beauty of having that extra year on his contract makes so much value for not only what the Coyotes can get for him, but for what the teams that are acquiring him for can also gain out of him as well. And they're able to justify the price a little bit more than just him as a rental for the next 2 or 3 months. And that's where I think the Senators are still a player here. The Pittsburgh Penguins, I think, are another team, kind of a team we just mentioned here. DeSmith and Jarry have had their moments of greatness, but they've also had their moments of incapability. And when the Penguins' recent losing streak comes up, you do wonder about that goaltending. And if they had a little bit more stable goaltending, Vejmelka could be a nice option there. Now, again, does that come at the price of a Tristan Jarry or a DeSmith losing their job, maybe going to Arizona? I don't know if the Penguins would justify that. And, Brian Burke has been pretty, open in the sense of his trust in Jarry and DeSmith in the past. And I think that loyalty will kind of continue. But I do have the Pittsburgh Penguins as a dark horse team here if they get desperate enough for a guy like Vejmelka. They've been in the conversation for another guy on the West Coast there in John Gibson. He's from Pittsburgh, and maybe that's part of the reason. But, again, the conversation can be had. And the best fit for Vejmelka this season is the Buffalo Sabres. If I had to pick a team today that would absolutely be the most interested in this conversation Karel Vejmelka is the Buffalo Sabres. And here's why. He's got 2 years of eligibility for the team. And the Buffalo Sabres right now are very much on the outside of the playoffs looking in. They're 4 points out of a playoff spot. They are very much in the race. And they're a team that can get in. I really do. I think you look at Pittsburgh and the Islanders in front of them, there's definitely an opportunity there. And the Florida Panthers. So there's a little bit of, they got to find a way to kind of dig themselves out of this grave. I think they can jump both the Penguins and the Islanders in the playoff race. They just beat the Islanders the other night. And the Panthers, again, it depends on their goaltending. If their goaltending is good enough, if Spencer Knight and Bobrovsky can carry them enough to get back into the playoffs, that is a team that is going to be a threat. So Buffalo needs good goaltending, and UPL has played very good in stretches, but if you want that stable backup, I think you're better off going with a better option than Craig Anderson. No discredit to Craig Anderson. He's a great guy. He's done a lot in the NHL here over the past 2 decades. But let's be honest, Vejmelka would be much more comfortable as a backup or even a potential 1A, 1B starter alongside UPL for the remainder of this season going into the playoffs. And that's just the reality of it. Buffalo has a window here for this year and next to keep Vejmelka, figure out what he's got for them. Buffalo has the assets. They could give you a first or even a second round pick this year in order to acquire a goaltender of that caliber. Again, the question is Kevin Adams going to be willing to give up those assets? And that's kind of a lot. It could potentially be a first or second or multiple prospects. It could be a pretty high package. We really haven't heard the exact price tag. Maybe that's something we'll start to hear. Maybe that'll price out Buffalo, but it is something to consider here. I think the Buffalo Sabres, in terms of right now, I would think they have to be the front runners, or at the very least, the team to beat for a guy like Vejmelka's services here ahead of this year's NHL trade deadline. Guys, that's it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.